For exercise 3, you'll need to download the NASA News information, and when you uncompress that folder, you'll notice that there's two subfolders, one for articles and one for a series of photographs. If you opened each of the articles, we'll click on this one and see, I'm giving you not only the article and the headline for the article, but at the very top, I'm giving you some information about each of the photos that corresponds with the article's name. So for the article Glen Red Team, there's two photographs, and I'm giving you the author or the photographer of each of the photographs, and there's a cut line. The first one is for the first photograph, and the second one is for the second photograph. And if we look in the photos folder, you can see here are the two different photos that correspond to that. What we want to do is we want to add the cut lines and the author information to the photograph's metadata. To do this, let's open up each of the photographs in Photoshop, and we'll do this one at a time. I'm going to click on it and then drag one of the photos into Photoshop. Once it's in Photoshop, we can go up to File, go down to the File Info, and under the File Info, this is where we can add all of the metadata that we'll use to generate our cut lines. Now we'll need to swap back and forth between the text edit file and this file. So let's go back and find the file for the article. I'll open it up. And the first thing we need to copy is the name of the author or the photographer. So I'll highlight that, Command C to copy. We'll jump back into Photoshop. And let's paste the author and the author field up here. By the way, make sure you're working in BASIC. Then we'll go back to our text edit file. And since this is the first photograph, I'm going to copy the cut line for the first cut line. Copy that, jump back into Photoshop, and we're going to paste the cut line inside of the description. The final thing I want you to do is to set the copyright status to be copyrighted. When you say OK, all of that data will now be saved with this particular photograph. And so when we send it to InDesign, or if you send it to a publisher, they should be able to find that information. Next, we need to save this image in two different formats. The first format, we'll go to Image, down to Mode, and choose CMYK Color. If it gives you any kind of warning messages, just say OK. And then we can go to File and choose Save As. We'll add the word color to the end of the name, so dash color. And let's change the format from Photoshop to be a TIFF. TIFF is a good printing quality format for most of your photographs, and we're saving it as the CMYK color version. We'll hit save, and then we'll just say OK to these options and any other pop-ups that may be coming up. So we've got a color version. Now let's save a black and white version. Go back up to Image, Mode, and choose Grayscale. We'll say OK to that warning. And then finally, we'll go back to File, Save As. We've already got it saved as a TIFF format, so let's just change the name from color to BW for black and white. When we hit Save and say OK to that, now we've got two different versions of this photograph saved. I'll close it out. And these two TIFF versions are what we're going to use in the next portion of this exercise. So let's repeat this process for all of the other photographs. We're going to select the second one. Let's drag it down into Photoshop. Then we'll go into the File, Information. The first thing we need to do is to copy over the author or the photographer's name. So Command C. Place it in the author field. And since this is the second photograph, we're going to copy the second cut line into there. So Command C. Paste it into the description and set the copyright status to be copyrighted. We'll say OK. We're not done yet. Let's save it as two different versions. Go to Image, Mode, choose CMYK. We'll say OK to any warnings that pop up. And then let's save it as a TIFF. Got TIFF already loaded up. And all I'm going to do is add the word color to the end of the name and say OK to any other warnings that pop up from there. We've got a color version. Let's go to Image, Mode, and choose Grayscale. We'll say OK to that. And then let's save a TIFF version of this grayscale. Changing the name from color to BW. Hit save, and OK to that. And finally, we'll close this out. So the process is going to be exactly the same for all of the photographs that we have here. Simply open up each of the photographs and the corresponding article to get the information, save that information to the file's metadata, and then save 2 different versions of each of the photographs. Once you're done, you can close out Photoshop, and then we'll jump into InDesign and do the second exercise for exercise 4.